Well, hey there. Lucky you. You stumbled on your new favorite podcast. Not Another Horror Podcast consists of weekly episodes of serial killers, hauntings, urban legends, alien abductions, unsolved mysteries, and many more things to go bump in the night, with a little sprinkle of dry humor. So join me, Anthony Rossetti, your host and curator of all things strange and unexplained, every Thursday for new bone-chilling episodes that'll keep you up at night. See you guys in the show.
Welcome to episode 55, New Hampshire. Today we're going to discuss the legend of Chief Chocorua and the Wood Devils of Coos County.
Very nice.
I am your host, Chris, and joining me as always is James, and we are recording a very special episode tonight.
Yes, sir. We are inside the belly of the beast, so
Yes.
to say. We are aboard the USS Stewart at the Galveston Naval Museum in Galveston, Texas.
That's right. We have been invited to a special investigative event where we're going to investigate the Stewart as well as the USS
Kavala.
a submarine.
What's this? Let's see. The submarine itself was actually nicknamed the Lucky Lady. It is a hero of World War II because it sank the Shakura, the Shukaku,
There we go.
which is a Japanese aircraft carrier, one of which was responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor.
That's
So,
right.
A little
And
sweet justice.
you can learn more about that in our Patreon episode because we recorded a whole bunch of interviews
Yes,
with
we
people
did.
who are investigating here, as well as someone who is who works here as well,
Staff member. Yep.
staff member. So go to our Patreon, and $7 a month, you get all kinds of extra stuff, including all the interviews we did.
It's cheap,
It's super cheap,
and all the money goes back to the show.
exactly, and you can find out more about that on that episode.
And
so
it's just the two of us.
yeah, so we're super excited because this is, first of all, this is our first remote event.
Yes, it is.
Not only that, but it's a remote event that's on what would you call it? It's not a battleship, right?
This is a destroyer.
Destroyer.
And
We're
it is-
literally inside the destroyer.
I forget the class of destroyer. I hate saying that, but is the USS
Stewart.
USS Stewart. Duh.
Yeah.
Get
And
it
so,
right, James.
So we're inside here
And it is the
recording.
last of its kind preserved from World War II. There are no other. This is it.
Yes.
Only one, and it is a monster.
It is. So we're inside here. We're looking at all the cool bunks and all the doors. I mean, it's awesome. And then we're going to go to, oh, wow, the fan just turned off.
Holy crap.
Fan's been on all night. Anyway, so we're going to go to the Kavala
The Kavala.
Kavala submarine after this, but it's pretty exciting because this is so cool. I've never been in one of these things before, so this destroyer battle or anything really,
Yep.
battleship. So I'm super excited about it. But enough of that. Why don't we get into the stories this week, James?
Indeed. Let's do it. This week's point of interest tells a tragic tale of friendship, betrayal, and death.
Fun stuff,
Yes.
man. Always bring in the happy-go-lucky stuff, James.
Gotta be the death, that's right. Although not strongly substantiated and passed down over centuries, the story is definitely interesting and may have been fabricated to blame Native Americans for the hard times the white men faced back then. So what do you say we get into this one, huh, brother?
Let's do it, man.
Mount Shakura was long said to bear the name of Chief Chocorua, a fictitious Native American, which that hasn't been substantiated either.
No.
According to legends, it is created by white colonists. He lived with his young son in the area that is now Tamworth, New Hampshire in the early 1700s. Historian Mary Ellen LaPonca has written extensively on the lack of supporting evidence for this myth and its possible origins of the names shared now by the mountain and a lake. Some versions of the legend say that Shakura stayed behind in Tamworth after most of his fellow Pequot. I'm going to do this the best I can, folks.
Okay.
You just have to bear with me.
Yeah.
Pequoquets.
I think that
You know what? I'm going to go with Pequoquets.
I think it's Pequoquets, yeah.
Had moved to northern Canada. You notice I didn't go back.
No, you didn't. Nope. Go forward.
To avoid the conflict with the white man. Following the 1725 Battle of Lowell's Pond near Fryeburg, Maine. Another source of information states that a mountain named Chocorua is mentioned in Jeremy Belknap's 1784 journal that he wrote while touring the White Mountains, and it is labeled Shakura on a 1791 map, so apparently it's substantiated.
Yeah.
A few years later, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote a poem called Jakova about a mountain where an Indian chief was found dead at the base of a cliff.
Oh.
Okay. The full story of the curse was first written down in October of 1828 by the painter Thomas Cole, who heard it while he was touring the White Mountains. Cole wrote in his journal, quote, "We came out at length." I always love these writings because they make no sense. "We came out at length to a lonely and deserted clearing, just at the foot of the mountain. The cause of this abandonment is, they say, the poisonous effects of the water upon the cattle, the result, according to tradition, of the curse of Shakura, an Indian from whom the peak upon which he was killed by whites takes its name."
Okay.
The Shakura legend tells of the Native American prophet or chief Chocorua, obviously, who is supposed to have lived near the mountain in the dawn of the white settlement, although no authentic records of his life are known to exist. The usual story, much of it drawn from a short work of fiction by Lydia Maria Child, is that in about 1720, Chocorua was on friendly terms with settlers, in particular the Campbell family, that had a home in the valley and now called Tamworth. Chocorua was also called away and left his son in the care of the Campbell family. The boy found and drank a poison that Mr. Campbell had made to eliminate troublesome foxes, and Chocorua returned to find his son had died. Distraught with grief, he pledged revenge on the family, and shortly thereafter Mr. Campbell returned home one afternoon to find his wife and children had been slain. Bad news.
Like, literally, this is the one time it was not the white man's fault, because he didn't give him the poison.
No.
He just had it out for foxes, and the
naturally, like kids, they drink stuff.
He drank, so
there was no
Mr.
Yuckmouth stickers back then.
Oh, so. That's what they were missing. Damn it, Mr. Yuckmouth.
It's too bad, though.
Oh, man.
Well, Campbell had suspected Chocorua and pursued him up the mountain. Chocorua was wounded by a shot from Campbell's rifle, and, uttering a curse upon the white settlers, he leapt from the summit to his death, so they say. I could not find any solid evidence of the Campbell family spoken of in this legend. I did look. I tried to find the Campbell family massacre or anything, and I couldn't really find anything to substantiate these claims.
Okay.
But I felt a little follow-up research was necessary, and I didn't find anything on that, unfortunately. And there are at least 3 other versions of the legend of Chocorua. One is that the chief simply fell from a high rock on a mountain while hunting. A second is that white settlers pursued him up the mountain after an Indian massacre and that he leapt to his death. The third is that all white settlers pursued him with guns, pitchforks, and torches. This sounds stupid. As Chocorua reached the top, the settlers decided to torch the remaining trees, and in doing so, they burned and exposed the topsoil of at least 1,270 feet, 390 meters, and as the flames drew closer to Chocorua, he plunged to his death.
So each story gets more and more dramatic.
And ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they burned him out, and he basically jumped.
So it's either he fell, or he jumped, or he was burned out and then jumped.
Yes, but the funny thing is, before he died, the curse, although the exact words of Chocorua's curse, or even if there was a curse, so to say, are not known, but it has been reported to be as follows. So in other words, made up.
Okay.
Probably. Curse be upon ye, white man. May the Great Spirit curse ye when he speaks in the clouds. I don't know any Indian that used the word ye.
Yeah, that's a good
like
point.
More Old English.
Well, I mean, if it was being recited by a poem, then it's the English poem.
And
so
these were English. These were English. These were not colonials. These were actually English, the first English settlers.
So they're going to stick some ye's in there where there shouldn't be.
Ye's and yays, yep.
Yeah.
May the Great Spirit curse ye when he speaks in the clouds, and his words are fire. Shakura had a son, and ye killed him while the sky looked bright.
I love the ye.
I know, that's what I'm sitting there. Come on now. And I'm reading a curse, and I'm sitting there giggling.
Yeah.
Lightning, blast your crops. Wind and fire, destroy your dwellings. The evil spirit breathe death upon your cattle. Your graves lie in the war path of the Indian. Panthers howl and wolves fatten over your bones. That's pretty harsh.
Yeah. Man, that's.
Shakura goes to the Great Spirit. His curse stay with the white man. And then off the cliff he went. A little follow-up on the battle that was supposed to be the catalyst for this legend. I looked it up to find the Battle of the Pequawket, also known as Lowell's Fight, occurred on May 9th, 1725, during Father Rail's War in northern New England. Captain John Lovewell led a privately organized company of scalp hunters organized into makeshift ranger companies, and Chief Paugus led the Abenaki at Pequawket, the site of the present-day Fryeburg, Maine. And if I mispronounce that, I'm sorry, but I'm not going back. The battle was related to the expansion of New England settlements along the Kennebec River in present-day Maine. The battle was the last major engagement between the English and the Wabanaki Confederacy in Governor Dummer's War. I love that name, Dummer. Governor Dummer. It's probably Doomer.
It's probably Doomer.
But it's two M's.
We'll call it Dummer then.
Dummers, yep. The fight was celebrated in song and story for at least several generations and became an important part of regional lore, even influencing the stories of Nathaniel Hawthorne in the early 19th century, as well as other writers. Its importance is often exaggerated in local histories, as arguably the August 1724 English raid on Norwich Walk. See these names, man, I'm telling you.
All right.
That's what it's called, Norwich Walk.
Norwich Walk? Okay.
Yep, that's it. Was probably more significant for the direction of the conflict in bringing in the Abenaki to the treaty. But the Norwich Walk raid, also celebrated in song and poetry, has been less well remembered, probably because it was essentially a massacre of Indian civilians by New England forces.
Okay.
After researching, I can see quite obviously why the legend could be entirely made up. All too often you hear of white man's victories in the history books described as battles to somehow, in my opinion, justify the often lopsided victories, but to the contrary have always been referred to as massacres should the Native Americans win the day. I've always had a problem with that.
Right.
They're always called battles or massacres.
Victory, history is written by the winners, and so.
True enough. So, why not create a local legend to scare the locals into hating the natives? Not the first time in history such a thing has happened. And it probably won't be the last either.
Probably not.
Nope. And that, my friend, is the legend of Chief Chocorua.
Very cool. For something made up, there's quite a bit of information in there.
There is.
Yeah.
I tried to dig up more, but that's about as much as I could grab.
Still a lot for something made up.
Yeah.
Or supposedly made up, I'm sorry.
A lot of sources repeated the same stuff, so it really didn't expound on it, a lot of that, because like I said, they couldn't substantiate a lot of it. But yeah, very interesting story.
Yeah.
Native American curses are a big part of history.
I mean,
you hear that all the time.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place. I think we covered one in a different episode earlier. But there's also the famous one, Chief Cornstalk, from the Mothman occurrence. Like, a lot of people believe that the Mothman is actually a curse brought on by Chief Cornstalk for that whole area. Have you heard that one?
No, I have not. That's interesting.
Yeah. Go watch a couple of documentaries and you'll see that some people believe that. I believe his name was Chief Cornstalk. I could be getting that wrong, but there is a supposed curse by the natives in that area, and many people believe that the Mothman is the fulfillment of that curse. Yeah,
and so I've often, I've said, and I've mentioned on previous episodes how powerful I think the Native Americans are spiritually. Mm-hmm. These guys have.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot of mental and emotional power. They're very strong spiritually.
Yeah.
So, I think they can bring about some pretty harsh curses. I think they can. I think they have that power.
Oh yeah. But why don't we, we're going to continue our journey in the White Mountains after the break when we talk about the Wood Devils.
Fantastic.
Okay, so as I said, we are going to stay in the White Mountains for the next story.
Nice.
Our last New Hampshire episode, we covered the devil monkeys.
We sure did.
From the sightings, I think they were like in the 90s and the 2000s. So as much as I wanted to do something different, I came across a story of yet another Bigfoot type cryptid in New Hampshire.
Nice.
In a whole different part of the state. Now, the New Hampshire Wood Devils are a smaller group of humanoids known to inhabit the northern part of New Hampshire in Coos County.
Okay.
Coos County is the largest and least populated county in New Hampshire, having a square mileage of 1,830, but only has 33,000 people according to the 2020 census.
Wow.
That's about 18 people per square mile.
Yeah. That's not bad.
It has a significant amount of unincorporated land. Over half of the municipal-like entities are unincorporated townships, gores, or grants, a rarity in New Hampshire, where nearly all of the land is incorporated as towns or cities. Now, most of its areas are mountainous and reserved as national forests, wilderness, or state parks. This encompasses most of the northern part of the White Mountains, which have a history of paranormal legends.
Sweet.
One such town is Livermore, which was established by the Saunders brothers in 1870 as a logging town in the middle of the White Mountains. By 1900, there were 200 people living there. Then the founders died, and the town was left in the care of an attorney who did nothing to improve it. And in 1920, 20 years later, the town population had gone down to 98. Then the mill caught fire, the town train fell into the river, and a huge flood in 1927 destroyed the entire rail line.
Holy crap.
By 1930, the population had fallen to 23.
I like that. 23.
23. By 1940, 4 people.
4 people.
4 people. 1950, 0.
Really?
0. Then, oddly enough, in 2000, the census report came back stating that there are 3 people living in the area.
Say what?
But by 2010, they had all moved out.
Damn.
With so much forested and mountainous areas, it's the perfect playground for the Woods Devils. Sightings of these creatures have been around since the early 1900s, with the greatest number of sightings between the 1930s and the 1970s. Unfortunately, it seems that those reported sightings don't seem to be widely available and may just be secondhand stories. One user on the site Usernet said that in a conversation with some of the old men in the area, he learned that there had been a lot more of these creatures in the 1930s.
Okay.
They were described as very thin and tall, with long pointy faces, wide smiles, covered in grayish fur or skin. Other than the smiles part, it also sounds like aliens.
It sure as does. Sound like them grays.
Yeah, except for the wide smiles.
Yeah.
They are said to be bipedal and over 7 feet tall. Witnesses say they use their thin form and extreme speed to hide in plain sight by using trees to camouflage themselves. Apparently, they are so thin that they can just hide on the other side of trees.
Perhaps these are the Browns, maybe?
Maybe.
The taller, thinner alien?
Maybe. I mean, but they're gray.
Yeah.
And the grays are usually the short ones, though.
That is true, but fat little heads and stuff like that. But they're 7 feet tall?
Again, the smiles is what gets me every time.
I guess so. Okay.
None of the aliens, I think, apart from like the reptiles or the mantises, are supposed to have mouths.
Yeah.
But these things, apparently the mouth is so wide, it's like from ear to ear. It's supposed to be huge mouths.
Joker.
Yeah, basically.
Sweet.
Reports state that they can remain perfectly still for long periods. Witnesses have stated that they are so good at camouflaging themselves and remaining still that they have almost walked directly into the creatures in the forest.
Holy shit.
While they are known to be elusive and shy, if you do happen to come across one and it knows that you see it, it will open its wide mouth and emit a high-pitched, awful, heart-wrenching scream to try and scare you away.
It might work.
And it definitely worked for me. I'd probably shit my pants first, though. Now, besides being shy, these creatures share so few similarities that many believe it is a cousin of the Bigfoot-type creatures rather than the actual Bigfoot itself.
Gotcha.
I mean, because Bigfoots are about 8 or 9 feet tall.
Oh, God.
They're 300-400 pounds. They're massively muscular.
And there have been so many different descriptions.
Right, but they all more or less share the same features. Like I said, 8 or 9 feet tall, generally are much more muscular, not thin. and their heads are more pointed than the rounded ones of these ones. Now, while Bigfoot is seen all over the world, these creatures, or the creatures of these description, are only found in the Coos County woods.
Okay.
And that's true, because I have not heard of another type of bipedal hominoid or cryptid that's lanky and tall like this.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like an ape-like creature. They're always muscular.
They're big. Yeah, exactly.
This is why they are known as the Coos County Wood Devils instead of Coos County or Northwest Bigfoot.
There you go.
While sightings tapered off after the 1970s, reports began coming out during the 90s and 2000s. The website Phantom and Monsters received a report from someone named Will who seemed to have encountered one in 1991.
I seen it.
I saw it.
Right.
It took my Dr. Pepper. I saw it. He said he went out in the fall of that year to try and photograph several moose that had been seen in the area along the Pontook Reservoir and Androscoggin River. He goes on to say that he parked off Berlin Road, walked about 1,000 feet into the forest east of the dam. As he walked, he suddenly heard a cracking sound behind him and turned to see what it was.
Always bone chilling.
Especially when you're supposed to be by
I'm
yourself.
sorry. I've been in the forest before, and I've heard wood cracking behind me when I'm walking.
Oh, really?
And I've turned around and seen nothing.
Oh,
But I'm going to tell you what.
that's terrifying.
It does. Of course, that's why I always walk in the mountains. I'm armed. But still.
But because you're also thinking maybe it's a big bear.
But you get that
as shit.
You get that rush, and you're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, that would freak the shit out of me. Yeah. Unfortunately, the woods were so dense that very little light crept in beyond the canopy. He walked over to the area he thought he heard the sound come from, but before he got to the spot, he said, quote, "I saw something tall and thin dart from behind a sugar maple tree and quickly disappear. I stood for a minute, and again this thing came from behind a large maple tree and then vanished again. I tried to get a photograph, but the darn thing was fast, and nothing ever showed up on the shot."
And I know you were talking about the camouflage thing. The trunk of a maple is like a grayish light color.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, that would be a perfect cover for him. And if he's that thin, good Lord.
That could be a reason why they're gray, because they want to stay in camouflage with the trees.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's an evolution thing.
Yes, sir.
It didn't show itself anymore that day, end quote. He went back to that place several times over the years, but never had any other encounters. What little he could see was about 7 feet tall, with dark, thick fur or hair, and very thin, thinner than a human at that height.
Wow.
He said it was so fast and nimble that he never heard anything other than footsteps when this thing moved between the trees.
Sheesh. That'd be a little distressing.
Yeah, it's like I'm thinking like a combination of like the aliens from Signs.
Yeah.
And it's like just like a Bigfoot type creature where they're just so nimble, but they're tall and lanky. Because tall and lanky is just freaky looking.
Yes, it is.
When it's not a human.
Yeah.
In 2000, Evan Lichnowsky and his former wife Edith were hiking through the Drummer Pond Trail off Nash Steam Road.
Hey, Edith, give me a beer, huh?
No, Archie. They stopped to watch the sunrise when suddenly a dark, foreboding figure crossed the trailhead in front of them.
Oh, man.
It ran down the path away from them and disappeared.
See, now, that's the part that always gets me. It disappears.
It
goes out of your sight. If you could keep your eye on something like that. But if it's running from you, that's one thing. But then it could ambush you down the trail.
See, I was just thinking, I was like, what is actually more frightening? So something like this pops out of the trailhead. Is it more frightening that it runs towards you or away from you? Because towards you, you have a few seconds to try and manage the danger and figure out what to do. Right. Running away from you,
it could be going to get more troops.
Or to set up ambush.
Exactly.
But you also have to realize, especially if you're on like a trail, like a single trail, that's the only way to go.
Yeah.
And you still have to go wherever this thing was. You have to go by where it was. So
what's
I don't know what's scarier.
It could lure you into false sense of security. Of course, would you still proceed in the same direction?
That's what
as
I'm
something
saying.
That tall and crazy
or would you just try?
Or would you turn the hell around and go back to your Jeep?
Right. I'd probably go back to my Jeep. Unless I had a gun, then I'd be okay. Then I'd go.
I hear you.
Yeah. This all happened before the couple had any time to process what it was they were seeing. They do recall seeing the figure had gray hair and was walking barefoot with long strides. The most recent sightings seem to have occurred in 2004, when a man was out hunting one cold November morning with his grandfather. After they located the spot for their base of operations, they took off to hunt.
Be very quiet.
I'm
Bigfoots.
hunting devils.
I'm hunting devils. That's right. Devils.
Devils?
How would Elmer say it?
Devils?
Devils.
I'm hunting devils. On the way back, they were frightened by a loud, awful squealing that came out of nowhere, and as they rounded a bush, they came upon a 7-foot-tall, skinny figure covered in gray hair. It stood on 2 legs, and when it saw the 2 men, it took off down the ridge. The men claimed to have found 15-inch footprints in the area afterward.
Holy Moses. Now, that's a size 15 shoe.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who's wondering, it's big.
It's a big shoe. It's a basketball player's shoe.
Yeah, it's not as big as a big foot, so to say, but that's still a damn good size foot.
And that's another reason why they think it's like a cousin, because not only is it thinner and shorter, but the foot size is small.
Yeah, because I've got a size 13 foot, and I'm only 6 feet tall.
You can probably take this thing, no problem. Probably, yeah. It's thin, so you're right there.
I'm out of shape, man. Bigfoot will whip my ass.
There hasn't been a sighting reported since then, but if you happen to find yourself in the dense woods of Coos County, take your time, keep your eyes open, because there could be a chance you may walk straight into the path of one of the woods devils.
Nice. And then again, maybe not.
Well, yeah, maybe you won't notice it because they're so good apparently at being camouflaged that you might
think about it.
Bigfoot
sightings are extremely rare.
That's true.
It's been rumored that they've been interdimensional.
Or aliens.
Exactly. All kinds of secret powers or abilities and stuff like that. And a creature that large can just evade millions of humans.
Now, these things, because they're so tall and thin, it would be very easy for them to camouflage as trees.
Yeah.
Or like one of the reports I read says that what the way they use their camouflage is not just to hide behind trees or to like stand still, but when you're on the opposite side of a tree from it, it can sort of do like a Looney Tunes move where as you go around the tree, it continues to stay on the opposite side of you and just kind of keep moving around.
Yeah.
So like you never ever get to see it because it's always directly on the opposite side of you, and it uses its thin frame to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Bigfoot can't do that because it's fucking it's like a football
and in
player.
The forests of the northeast, so to say, in Maine, New Hampshire, and all those states, the wood is much lighter colored. So that
true.
That I've seen, should I say?
Yeah.
And that's not like the Pacific Northwest where everything is brown and
right,
green, where your brown big feet and stuff like that, much larger creatures hide amongst those trees.
Yeah.
So they obviously have skills to evade and hide. Why they would stand right in somebody's path and then scream at them with a big, huge mouth and give their positions away and stuff. Well, that's just weird.
It's always by surprise though, because these things are doing their thing, and then humans doing their things, and normally I think the creatures have enough time to hide behind a tree. But if they happen not to, it said they stand perfectly still,
yeah.
and they look so similar apparently to the trees, the maple trees of northern New Hampshire, that if they don't have time to hide behind a tree, they stand still. But if a person is astute enough and actually recognizes that that's not a tree, it has no. I mean, it's thin. I'm sure it's strong, but apparently, like I said, they're elusive and shy, so they're not fighters. So the only other option it has. Oh, there goes the fan.
Well, that scared the shit out of me.
So the only option.
I'm just kidding.
The only other option it has is to use its scream, which I guess is why it has a wide mouth.
Yeah.
And so apparently, I mean, so you see some weird creature. First of all, it's going to throw you off.
Yeah.
But then you hear this retching scream. It's probably going to scare the shit out of you.
And you said 2004 was the last time?
2004. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm wondering why nobody's ever gone and ventured and looked for them.
But again, let's remember that the I don't know about you, but I don't really hear all that often about the northern woods of New Hampshire being a place for hikers and travelers.
That's very true, yeah.
So it is very dense. I mean, it's very dense, but very sparse of people.
Yes, it is.
So that could be a reason why. I mean, you think about hiking, you think about like Colorado, Oregon, Northern California, you think about like maybe the Appalachians in some areas, but rarely do I ever hear people say, oh, I'm going to northern New Hampshire to hike the trails of White Mountain.
Exactly.
So maybe that's why there aren't as many. Plus, as we mentioned, this thing is very good at camouflage.
Absolutely.
So maybe people have encountered them, but actually haven't seen them because they're behind a tree or something.
Very cool.
So yeah, so that's the Wood Devils of White Mountains, bud.
I like that, man. I never heard of them guys.
Me either. And I didn't want to go with another cryptid or Bigfoot type creature, but they were so different from the monkey devils or the devil monkeys.
Yeah, monkey devils, devil monkeys.
Yeah, and different from Bigfoots in general. That I was like, you know what? I got to do it. So yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's great, bro.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, again, we are recording this episode on top or inside the USS Stewart.
Yes.
We're about to go do some ghost hunting, so I'm excited.
Yes, we are. Thank goodness. I haven't ghost hunted in quite a while.
Me either. So in the meantime, go check out our YouTube and all that stuff that we have. And if you want to hear more about our adventure here, go check out our Patreon.
Please. www.patreon.com/State of Fear, all one word. And it's only $7 a month. You get our ad-free episodes. You get early access. You get all of our special materials. We have specials that we've reviewed. We have commentary tracks. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Bloopers.
Yep.
I mean, God knows we got plenty of those.
For this one
it's
especially.
all kinds of extra material. So if you enjoy the show, we'd appreciate your support.
Yeah.
You know, and we've made it very affordable. One level, one shot, and you get everything.
That's right. All right, bud. Well, I think we're heading off to Wisconsin next week, right?
I believe Wisconsin is the next upstate.
All right. Well, let's
next
get
upstate.
Next state up. Well, either
whatever.
way, let's get in the car and let's head on out.
Yes, sir. Head on down the road. Everybody take care and have a good evening.